Lewis Hamilton has just admitted it. He's no longer sure he wants to stay at Ferrari, and what he revealed might destroy the team's entire 2026 plan. Why would the most successful driver of this era even consider leaving Formula One's most legendary team? Today, we uncover the silent conflict behind the garage doors, the betrayal that started in Brazil, and how Hamilton's latest words changed everything inside Maranello. Because when a champion like Hamilton starts losing faith, it's not in himself. It's in the people who promised they believed in him. Subscribe now if you believe legends deserve the truth, and let's break this down piece by piece. It was calm, measured, but undeniable. In a moment of rare honesty, Lewis Hamilton admitted what no Ferrari fan wanted to hear. He no longer knows if staying at Maranello is the right decision. This wasn't an emotional outburst. It wasn't frustration after a bad race. It was the voice of a 7-time world champion who has been patient, focused, and professional through every challenge, and who now feels abandoned by the very team that was supposed to back his legacy. The signs were there long before Brazil. Poor balance, unexplained floor issues, an older spec car, while his teammate received the latest upgrades. But when Hamilton retired from a Sao Paulo Grand Prix after just 18 laps, it wasn't just the carbon fiber that broke, it was the trust. Hamilton's car, underdeveloped and unprotected, suffered critical damage in a high-load section of the track. Ferrari's post-race statement blamed debris. But insiders revealed a different truth. His car was 2 versions behind, and it was never meant to win that weekend. Back in the paddock, journalists pushed for answers. Hamilton, ever composed, didn't blame anyone. But his words were sharp. You can't expect consistency if you don't have consistency behind the scenes. That sentence shook the media room. It was a quiet confirmation of what had been whispered in engineering circles for weeks. Ferrari had shifted its priorities, and Hamilton was no longer at the center of the project. In fact, he wasn't even near it. And when asked about his future, Hamilton didn't deflect. He didn't give a rehearsed PR line. He looked straight ahead and said, "We'll have to see. I came here to build something, but it's hard to build when the ground keeps moving beneath you." For fans, that was devastating. For insiders, it was expected. And for Ferrari's leadership, it was the beginning of a firestorm they can no longer contain. This wasn't just about a floor or suspension upgrade. This was about identity. Hamilton joined Ferrari not just to win races, but to rebuild a dynasty. He brought experience, calm leadership, and a global spotlight. But somewhere along the line, Ferrari turned inward. They protected Leclerc. They limited Hamilton's tools. And now, for the first time in his career, Lewis Hamilton is publicly questioning if his commitment is being met with equal intent. And that's why this moment matters. Because when a driver of Hamilton's caliber begins to question the mission, fans around the world take notice. Not because he's walking away, but because he's earned the right to expect more. So if you believe in honesty in legacy, and in facts over headlines, subscribe now, and let's dig into what really went wrong behind the scenes. From the moment Hamilton exited Turn 4 in Brazil, something felt off. His radio remained calm, but the data lit up in red. Rear instability, high yaw sensitivity, compromised energy deployment. The engineers knew immediately the floor wasn't holding its shape under load. And once the car took a hit from curve vibrations, the damage cascaded. But the real question wasn't what failed. It was why he was even using that floor in the first place. 2 weeks before Brazil, Ferrari had introduced a new floor package, one that improved airflow sealing and reduced porpoising in high-speed sectors. Charles Leclerc ran that version. Hamilton didn't. His side of the garage had been quietly tasked with validating the previous spec under different temperature conditions. That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact, confirmed by telemetry reviews shared internally. Hamilton was not driving Ferrari's fastest car. He was driving its reference model. Telemetry further revealed Hamilton's tire degradation spiked 18% higher than Leclerc's after lap 10. His ERS, Energy Recovery System, was also operating on a pre-Qatar software configuration, meaning slower harvesting and less punch out of corners. Combined with a rear end that was undersupported by outdated suspension mounts, Hamilton's pace collapse wasn't just predictable. It was engineered into the car's limitations. This data wasn't hidden from him. Hamilton knew. And still, he tried to adapt. Brake modulation, throttle smoothing, altered line entries, anything to stabilize the platform. He made gains in FP2. He minimized degradation in FP3. But when the floor gave out during the race, it didn't just end his Sunday. It confirmed the imbalance he had been quietly living with since Japan. And that's where frustration meets reality. Because Lewis Hamilton has never needed excuses. His driving speaks louder than words. But in Brazil, the numbers finally spoke louder than both. The retirement wasn't just mechanical failure, it was system failure. A failure of equal equipment. A failure of communication. A failure of vision. The shift didn't happen overnight. It began quietly after the United States Grand Prix when Ferrari's top brass decided to begin streamlining their 2026 chassis strategy around Charles Leclerc's feedback. The reason? Familiarity. Charles had been with the team longer. His driving style matched the wind tunnel's development assumptions. From that moment on, Lewis Hamilton's car was no longer an equal project. It became a tool of validation, not optimization. Engineers assigned to Hamilton's side of the garage noticed the changes immediately. Simulator time was reduced. Access to new parts delayed. Setup flexibility narrowed. For a driver who built his legacy on extracting marginal gains from evolving platforms, it was suffocating. Ferrari didn't tell Hamilton he was the second priority. They simply showed him, race after race, through hardware and silence. But Hamilton didn't react publicly. He did what only champions do. He went internal. He started working even more closely with his race engineer. He changed how he prepared simulator runs, asking for stability under compromised conditions. He adjusted his own driving to suit worse balance windows. The goal wasn't to win. It was to survive. To keep extracting data so precise that even the biased tools couldn't discredit his input. In Qatar, he came close to proving them wrong. Despite using an older floor and a limited suspension setup, Hamilton's long-run pace was nearly identical to Leclerc's. His tire wear was smoother. His corner entry was more stable. And still, the upgrades didn't come. Ferrari stayed silent, continuing to invest their future into one driver while ignoring the performance creeping up from the other. Brazil was the final blow. After the retirement, Hamilton wasn't just tired of the technical gap. He was tired of pretending it didn't exist. And for the first time, he allowed the world to hear it not in rage, but in clarity. He admitted the tools weren't equal. He admitted the trust was cracking. And he admitted he might not want to continue down a path that had been changed without his knowledge. After Brazil, Ferrari had one job: protect the relationship. Instead, they retreated into silence. No technical debriefs for the public. No defense of Hamilton's damaged car. No acknowledgement of the fact that their most important signing in a decade was left exposed. The floor failure wasn't denied, but it wasn't explained either. And that lack of transparency sent one clear message: Lewis Hamilton was no longer a priority in Maranello. At the next media event, Ferrari's team principal gave a carefully filtered comment. He praised the progress of the car, thanked both drivers, and outlined long-term goals for 2026. But when pressed on Hamilton's retirement, his words were clinical. No apology, no accountability. And when asked directly if Hamilton would be central to next year's development program, he dodged. For a man who once called Hamilton a pillar of Ferrari's new era, it was a sharp and very intentional shift. Hamilton noticed. Everyone did. But what followed next wasn't outrage, it was resolve. In a rare moment of transparency, Hamilton stepped in front of the cameras and calmly dismantled the idea that this was just a tough weekend. He talked about preparation. He talked about priorities. And then he said the words that confirmed everything. I don't know if this is still the project I signed up for. It wasn't a retirement hint. It wasn't a contract threat. It was something more powerful: honesty. Because when a driver like Hamilton, who has built a career on loyalty, dedication, and growth, says he might walk away, it means the cracks inside the team are not tactical, they are fundamental. That interview ignited the paddock. Engineers, former drivers, even rival team principals weighed in. Some blamed Ferrari's internal politics. Others defended Hamilton's courage to speak up. But one thing became clear: the team's silence had backfired. What they refused to acknowledge was now driving the entire F1 media cycle.